Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Anda sedang menonton agenda Awani yang dirakamkan khas di Pulau Pinang sempena dengan Trop Fest Southeast Asia pertama kali di Malaysia. I would like to now speak in English because I have a very, very important guest. Robert Luketic, thank you so much.
Terima kasih, thank you.
Robert Luketic is a very famous film director operating in Hollywood but born in Australia. And if I say legally blonde, a lot of people would still be jumping in front of their television set because they would have identified with that movie. But before I go all the way back to the Hollywood story, can I please get you to tell us about that moment when you were answering phone for the Australian Film Commission? Because I think Trop Fest is about giving any ordinary person a chance to make it as a storyteller, filmmaker.
That's right, because we often think of people who work in the movie industry as these sort of untouchable, unobtainable people. I was just a regular guy. I went to film school. I had a lot of debt there, and so I had to go, when I moved out of film school, I had to go and get a job. So I got a part-time job answering phones at the Australian Film Commission. At the same time that I was doing that, I was entering my short films into festivals in the United States. And I found out that I was accepted into this, big international film festival, and so I took a few days off work. I flew to Colorado. I attended the festival, and within 10 minutes of my movie screening, I'd signed an agent, manager, and had a deal with a major Hollywood studio, and the reality was I had to fly home again and still go back to my job answering phones. Good afternoon, Australian Film Commission. Good afternoon, Australian Film Commission. So, but it was life-changing. And that's why I think the short film is such an important form, because it can change your life, and anyone can do it. In these days, we can use our iPhones, Samsung, whatever equipment you have. You can be a storyteller.
Tell your story. But some of us do choose to go to film schools. There's a very, very respected film school right here, locally, on the island of Penang, in USM, University of Science Malaysia. But sometimes it's because you're too much looking at the form that you don't tell your story. But your short film that you were talking about, when you were in your film school, that was the product that you come up with. It's not just to fulfill the grades, but it was to tell your story.
That's right, and as a student, you become very concerned with the technicalities and the technical aspects. And what you forget is that movies are about people, are about characters, and characters that we either love or hate or care for, and want to go on this journey with them. So, yeah, to me that's what filmmaking about. Filmmaking is about people,
I just love the title, Tiziana Buberini.
Please
tell us how that came about.
Well, it's the lead actress in the piece, Tanya Lacey. She actually thought of the name. We were shopping together. We went in the early days of making it, and we were in the supermarket, and there was a girl, and her badge said Tiziana. And it turns out it's actually a real name in Italy. It means the third born. So, and then we just chose a quirky Italian name, Buberini, and Tiziana Buberini was born. It's funny.
Some people spend hours, if not days or weeks or months, trying to get that killer storyline, to start that first treatment and then to move on to a script. How was it for you?
It's pretty easy for me. I don't write very much anymore, but one thing I learned from several very established writers was you shouldn't punish yourself and lock yourself in a room for days to do it. If everyone just spent 1 hour a day, 1 hour of your time, after your prayers, after dinner, doesn't matter what it is, spend 1 hour, sit down at the computer, and even if you write a few words, that's okay. But eventually, you're going to, in a month, in 2 months, you're actually going to have maybe a full script or a full treatment.
Get it flowing.
Yeah, and on the weekends, don't write. Use the weekends to become inspired,
I think that all work and no play doesn't work with you.
No.
Because even during your presentations, you must have time with your actors. You want them to feel at ease. They're not puppets.
I have to fly my plane. I have to do things. You cannot always the mind and creativity needs time away from it to get perspective.
But that's the system in Hollywood. And
It's a machine.
Yes, it's a machine. And can you relate to us the first time that you had to be smacked right in the center of that system for Legally Blonde? Because that must have been like a huge step to take.
It was incredible. So just think about it. I was, I came from a pretty average family in a small suburb just outside of Sydney. I went to film school, I made my film short. Then all of a sudden I had a contract with MGM to make this film called Legally Blonde. And I don't think I was really quite ready for what I saw when I arrived on that day. On my first day of shooting, I arrived and Melrose Avenue was shut down. There was maybe 150, 200 people walking around. I didn't know where to go, who to look at.
No pressure.
I had to ask somebody who was cooking breakfast for the crew, "Hi, I'm the director, can you tell me where I have to go?" And but the magical thing happened. Once we started rolling and shooting, it became like just what I was doing in film school, storytelling. It was just on a much bigger scale, and there were a lot more people involved. But it was terrifying. There was trucks, maybe 4 blocks of just trucks and equipment, and it was.
But that taste of power will grow on you. You get to determine.
Yeah,
stuff.
and then I realized, hang on a minute, why am I scared? Because I'm the director, and all these people sort of work for me.
Yeah.
So that was. But it took me a while to work that out.
You spent quite a significant amount of time in your presentation to talk about, what you want as a director and what the studio want, the producers, for example. And in the case of casting the lead character for Legally Blonde, you seriously wanted Reese Witherspoon.
I felt very strongly in my heart that Reese was the right person for this movie. If we'd gone with sort of other casting directions that the studio wanted, not me, I think the movie would have been a very different movie. But like any good director who really believes in their instincts and in their gut, you choose your fights very carefully. That was one that I was prepared to fight for, and it's give and take. Pick your battles.
Yes. I have to stop for the first break,
sure,
Robert, but
go for it.
Once we are back, Robert said this magical line in his presentation that he would love to make a movie in Malaysia. Let's talk about that after the short break. Terima kasih kerana masih menonton rakaman agenda Awani khas pada Trop Fest Asia, Southeast Asia yang pertama di Malaysia, di Pulau Pinang. Dan I would like now to continue with Robert. And when you said that, I was in the audience, and when you said that, I would love to do a story or film in Malaysia. And you're no stranger to Malaysia. You love coming here, love the food here.
I've come here many times.
So, but I think for me personally, for somebody in the media, the frustration is, I look around, I feel it, I live it every day. I know there's so much potential for story elements here, but somehow our film industry doesn't really reflect that.
Right.
So, if you were to do it here, what would be your focus?
I mean, there are so many interesting stories about people and how they interact with each other and how all these cultures live in harmony. Malaysia is also a very beautiful country. From spectacular modern cities to tropical jungles and incredible islands. So, for as a filmmaker, it's just an exciting place to shoot a movie. But movies are always about people, and I find Malaysian culture very interesting. It's a culture that has learnt to live together in relative harmony, and I think there are many lessons for the rest of the world to be seen here in terms of how we live, how we communicate with each other and treat each other with respect. As different as we all think we are, we're really all the same.
Is that kind of grabs of feelings and emotion that stays with you from the very first day you start filming a feature film, maybe until 3 or 4 months later when you complete it? Because what makes you stay true to how you envision that to be, from script right up until editing?
Yeah, it's something that happens the first time you read that script or write that script. It's something that it invades your body. It says this story must be told, or this will be a very exciting job to do. There is something that, you know, you need to be a person of conviction and a person who can follow through, because it's a long journey. It takes a year to make a movie, and there are many people involved. There's financiers, there's, you know, the other crew that you must work with, there's the actors. So it takes conviction and a single focus and a drive. That's what makes a good director, I think. You know, someone who's just unstoppable and has this vision and will stop at nothing till it's realized on the screen. You know?
What would pull you to make a movie in Malaysia? Is it just script, or, you know,
to make me shoot a movie in Malaysia? Yes. It would be the script. It would be the script. It would have to be, you know, it would have to be something that's not just about all the beautiful parts of Malaysia, but it also has to be about the people who live here and their stories. I mean, we know of, you know, other countries that have big film industries. We know a lot about their culture. We know about how they live and how they work. For me, in Malaysia, it's still very new and somewhat of a mystery to me. As a filmmaker, discovering that and opening that up and seeing how that works. You know, we as filmmakers, we need new inspiration. I don't think the center of the world should be, you know, films should not just be made in one place, because, you know, they should be made all over the world.
Otherwise, globalization would be so boring. You go anywhere.
Yeah, if we're all like McDonald's, then it would be very boring. You know.
Which is your preferred genre or type of movie? Because you can do comedy, you can do others too. And when we look at the trend nowadays, even if I look at Spider-Man, the character is becoming more real with the latest installment. So is that where the trend is heading?
I think yes. I call it hardware versus hardware. I think where I'm making my films, we went a little bit too far in being caught up in the machines and the machinery and the special effects, and you know, you can end up with a very empty movie if you're not completely engaged with this person, whether you love them, whether you hate them, whether you're worried for them. You know, you need to be on this journey with that character, and that's what's very, very important. And I think we're seeing that now in terms of, you know, the movies we're making. If you look at this year's sort of batch of Oscars, Oscar contenders, there's all kinds of things that are about people, that are about, you know, small emotions or large emotions. It's very interesting.
What gives you the most pleasure? You did mention something about, you know, not going to watch your movie after you finish it, but to some directors, they like to sit there in the cinema in the dark and look at the impact that they have and people's reaction to it. What is it for you?
For me, it's shooting. I love being on set shooting and editing. And then once my movie is complete, I give it to the audience. It no longer belongs to me, you know, and that's where I get my pleasure. But on set is where I feel most comfortable. You know, I feel like the king.
You're in the zone.
I'm in the zone, I'm the king, I'm the boss, and it just feels really great. It feels great to create and to surround myself with creative camera people and sound, and I really trust my crew, you know, and I really empower them to bring their ideas to the table too. You know, I want it. It's a very collaborative medium. So the more great minds that are working together, the better the end product is going to be. You know, I don't want to be a sort of dictatorial kind of director.
We have to go for the last break. I promise you, the last stop after that.
No, that's okay.
I want to get your ideas on, because again, we would like a lot of young filmmakers to come out here to Tropfest, and you have a special affinity with Tropfest because you can feel what they're trying to do. But I guess at the end of the day, always we come back to narratives and storytelling. So maybe getting past that first stop, you know, like you said, just go down and write it up, but the motivation has got to come with it too. So how do you drive yourself day in, day out, the next movie, the movies after that? That we'll discuss after the short break. terima kasih penonton rakaman khas Agenda Awani. Thank you so much, Robert, for sharing with us. But I guess if we were to push more youngsters, especially, into the world of filmmaking and storytelling, they must have that motivation or learn to generate that motivation to keep on going, to
Yes.
keep on doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe they can learn a thing or two from you.
I mean, it does take a certain kind of person because there is a lot of rejection in this business. Whether you're an actor or a famous director, rejection is a very difficult thing. But you must overcome this. You must concentrate on you and what you want to do. And what I say to a lot of young emerging filmmakers is make a plan. It can be a 10-year plan or a 15-year plan, but then you actually have very specific goals which you have to reach. So you've set, what's the first part? The first part is writing or finding a script. Now, okay, so that tick that box. Now the next one will be someone has to read it. You don't write a script just to put in your drawer.
Yes.
Stage 2, find out, do your homework, do some research, you know, have the tenacity, have the go, the drive. Find out who's reading script, who's producing scripts, who are the financiers in town, who other creative minds like you. Maybe you can get together with some friends who share creative things, and maybe you can put some money together and share a phone and do it that way. Or find a producer, you know, call, never take no. I was always on the phone, I was always writing letters, I just never stopped, you know.
Even when you were doing your first shot?
Even when I was doing my first shot, you just don't stop. And I don't take no for an answer. This person shuts one door, I will open another door, and if it slams in my face, then let's go open another door again. Tenacity, drive. It's a passionate business. And it's a very competitive business. It's also a very expensive business. So it takes a very singularly focused person to do this. But the rewards of it are incredible. You know?
And you look up to James Cameron, and that's, I think, one of the benchmark to look at.
Because James Cameron operates in a world that doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it's fascinating and inspiring. To have, for a director to have such complete control and freedom to experiment. You know, if something may not go right, okay, we'll just throw that out and let's try it this way. In order to create perfection, he's able to create that sort of perfect thing. And for us regular directors, it's hard because we're often shooting a spreadsheet, not a script. You know, there's a lot of financial things that sort of have to be dealt with. And that's another interesting thing. Of all the arts, film is the only one that is very, very much tied to, you know, commerce. It's art and commerce working together in harmony. They don't always work in harmony, however.
Maybe it's not such a big thing in Hollywood. Censorship. At this particular rough cut, we heard loads of questions.
Yeah, I heard there was a really great Malaysian movie that was not.
So, but how do you
censored.
yourself look at it? You know, the ratings given to movie, is that very important to you?
It's very frustrating to me because even in my country we have censorship in the United States. For me, what I find really interesting is that I can blow people up, blow their heads up, explode their bodies, see guts and things. That's fine, that's okay, that sort of violence is okay. But if I wanted to show part of a man or a woman, not fully undressed, but just suggestive parts, well then that's you know, that has to get a much higher difficult rating, which reduces the market.
Yeah.
Because if a movie's rated R, only people above 20
age,
or 18 or whatever can see it. So, and I also find a lot of double standards in censorship. Sometimes things get by, and other times they don't. And I don't know. I think we should let the people decide what they want to watch. You know, I don't know. I can't speak for each country and each culture. Yes. It's not my place to say.
But for the storyteller.
But for the storyteller, for me, the censorship should come from the person. The person should know what's in the movie and what they're going to see, and they can make the choice. Do I want to see it or not see it? You know, and of course we have to protect our children from some things, some adult themes. Yeah, I mean that's where I stand on it.
So finally, what's next for you?
What's next? You know, I'm at a really interesting place right now. I've taken a couple of years off, and I'm either going to make a really large budget movie or a very small one.
Okay.
And that's why I'm flying back on Sunday just to make this decision. I'm going to think about it on the airplane, and probably when I land in LA, I'll decide which one it's going to be. You know, one is this movie is very small and very personal, and the other one is gigantic, blowing up airplanes, and you know, it'll be a whole other different thing for me.
I wish I could do a shot on you thinking about which one to choose. Thank you so much, Robert.
Thank you so much. Terima
I'm
kasih.
sure Malaysia, all of us will say terima kasih to you.
Thank you.
There you go. Terima kasih kerana telah mengikuti. Terima kasih kepada Tropfest Southeast Asia. Dan jika anda mahu Robert datang ke Malaysia melakukan filem, tulis dan hantarkan skrip kepada Robert. Dan itu yang diminta oleh Robert. Dan hantarkan pandangan anda sendiri kepada semua platform yang ada di Astro Awani. Ada Facebook, Instagram, Twitter dan juga aplikasi mudah alih iOS dan Android. Sekian, selamat malam dan jumpa lagi.